Welcome to Bakhita's Blessings, our weekly podcast where we explore issues in the life of the church and seek guidance from our patron saint, Josephine Bakhita, who leads us in our mission as we open wide our doors and our hearts to worship, evangelize, and serve all God's people. I'm Father Mitch Doyen, and I'm pastor of St. Josephine Bakhita Parish, and I'm so grateful that you've joined us for our podcast.
You are absolutely the pastor. You are such a good pastor. He's such a good lead servant. If you missed him preaching the other Sunday, please go back and listen because you gave us some words to live by.
All right.
You're pretty good. God chose a good one.
Sometimes it works, yeah.
But anyway, my name is Dr. Alice Prince, and I am the Director of Communications and Evangelization for here at St. Josephine Bakhita Parish, and we are so glad that you are with us. Oh my God, we're celebrating the feast day of St. Josephine Bakhita on February the 8th.
Right.
And amazing. Bakhita's Blessings podcast is on the way. So, Father Mitch, I must say that this gospel is one of my favorite gospels. I feel like it's the one that people really all know. I think it's the gospel that really gives me purpose. It gives me inspiration. It motivates me. I really like this gospel this week. Let's talk about it.
Well, you are salt and light. That's and I think it's beautiful that it's the same day as we celebrate the feast of St. Josephine Bakhita, which this year falls on the Sunday, and it's a beautiful witness for us to say we follow in the footsteps of St. Josephine Bakhita, and she really is a light in the world, right? She shares the light of Christ with us. When she was with us walking this earth, right? She was, people wanted her to be a saint because they had experienced the light of Christ from her. And I also think salt, right? I think it came from her suffering, that she was able to pour herself into every wound that she encountered because she trusted the healing power of God at work in her own life. And if it could be at work in her life with everything that she experienced, it must be available to all of us, right?
Oh my gosh. Now listen, Father Mitch, I got to tell you, you brought that in a different way. I was not thinking about it that way. I wasn't thinking about salt in that way. So for those of you who don't know, we are talking about Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 and 16. Wow. So now you have me thinking about the wounds.
Right.
I'm talking about the physical scars, the physical wounds, and what it looks like to then pour salt into those wounds to make it even.
Right. So I guess I was thinking about St. Josephine Bakhita, especially. How is she salt of the earth? And we think about salt adding flavor.
We do.
But sometimes I think we imagine, we're just a little bit of an additive. People can just. But no. The salt, when it seeps into everything that it touches, right? And I think it's a healing presence.
I do. And so when I thought about salt, when I read this verse, I kept thinking, and the reason why I like the verse, and when I read it and keep reading it, and the reason why I always go back to it when I said, this is like this would be one of my favorite gospels. I always thought, you are the salt. It just means like you have purpose.
Well, exactly.
You have purpose in this. Like you have purpose. And then I think about the purpose of salt. We use it to preserve.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to preserve God's light, to preserve God's will, to preserve God's wanting us to do things to glorify Him. You know what I mean? So that's what I was thinking about when you said salt. I didn't think about it in that way, but that way is the truth as well.
Sure.
My gosh, two things can be right, huh?
Right. And I was borrowing a little bit from Isaiah, which is our first reading, because he says it plain as day. Your work is to end oppression, to offer shelter to the homeless, to clothe the naked, all of that, but especially, which we know is St. Josephine Bakhita's she's the patron saint of the victims of human trafficking, right? And her own story of ending oppression and opening up a gate to freedom for everyone. That's also what's happening here, because we say we are the light of the world, and Jesus says you are the light of the world. And it's fascinating. It's right after the Beatitudes.
Right after the Beatitudes.
Blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, blessed are all those who show mercy. And then he turns to all of us, his disciples, and says, you are salt and you are light. So we carry the light of Christ everywhere we go. And I think St. Josephine Bakhita models it for us in a beautiful way.
She does. The other part of that verse, when it says, you are the lights of the world. And I believe it is so important for us to understand that, especially those people who deal with mental health, those people that believe that their salt is unworthy, those people who believe that, they are less than, you are the light of the world, and your light should not be hidden under a bushel. Right. It's not meant to be. Your light is meant to light up the world. Right. And I speak to people who have gifts, who have talents, who are, a little bit afraid to show their gifts and
I would say especially young people, right? So this requires courage.
It does.
Even of us older folks, right? And I don't know how often this has happened to you, but I see it among some young people, and even I experience it frequently in my own life. And even though I would hope that I know better, because there is darkness all around us still. And so when we step out with this intention to be light, inevitably someone or some circumstance is going to say, hey, Mitch, you're really just a knucklehead. Why don't you go back and stop trying to proclaim this gospel stuff, because it's really not working. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. I'll just go back into the darkness and quit. Like it's easier to quit than to persevere in purpose. Right?
Yeah. Now you preaching again.
Well, I need to remember this. Right. Yeah, because we're bumping into each other all the time, and sometimes it's light meeting light, but sometimes there's an edge, and instead of being a source of encouragement for each other, we can hint of discouragement, and that's the exact opportunity to remain in the light, to persevere in being light, and maybe invite whatever the obstacle is, maybe invite that into the light as well, and say, now wait a minute, can we look at this another way? I have opportunities like that all the time. Like somebody will leave the room and I'll think, boy, I didn't handle that really well. And sometimes we'll even call them and say, can we try that again? Because we trust that Christ is holding us together at all times, and we can't miss those opportunities. Yeah.
You know what? I loved it when we were at church a couple Sundays ago, and you stopped and you said, all people under 40 stand up. And how we saw nearly half of our congregation, a lot of people, stand up, and they are the light.
Oh my gosh!
It
was so, and everybody felt it, right?
Everybody felt it. Everybody felt it, and it's all. And so, to young people, and to all people, if your light causes other people discomfort, that's between them and God, and not you. You shouldn't dim your light.
Right.
That's what I have to tell people. I have to tell my young people, I remember, to remain in the light, to remain God's light. You don't have to hide your gifts. You don't have to, be embarrassed about your gifts. You don't have to dim your light to make someone else feel comfortable. Your light should not be dimmable.
Right. And
that's between them and God. And you use your light to shine out the darkness. You use your light to pray for them. You use your light, to continue to spread good. But don't dim your light to make others feel comfortable.
Right. And so the bushel basket that Jesus is talking about, it could be someone is shy or whatever. That's part of it. But I think the deeper message there is don't let fear get in the way of who God has called you to be.
Mm-hmm. Evangelize.
Right.
Serve. Worship. Love God out loud. Love Him in the light.
Right.
You know, that's I love it. I absolutely love this verse, this gospel. And I just kind of want to piggyback before I ask you the life applications. Like, what are we taking with us through this week? St. Josephine Bakhita. How has her feast day changed you personally? Or I say her feast day, you know, we celebrate her feast day, but how has being a part of this community, us naming the church St. Josephine Bakhita, how has that changed you personally? You know, us carrying out this mission.
Yeah, as I've been praying with her, to her, reflecting on her life, one of the things that impresses me most is, as she continued in her life as a Canossian sister, she spent a lot of time with children. And she didn't really tell her story out loud too much to adults. And not that the adults around her didn't understand her holiness or appreciate her story, but I think she knew that proclaiming this truth of Jesus Christ in the lives of young people was the most important thing. So I guess I'm also preparing to offer Mass at St. Louis Catholic Academy. And like what you said before about when we invited the young people to stand in church, I think it's our responsibility as elders in the community to lift up our young ones and encourage them to lead us where we must go. And I see St. Josephine Bakhita doing that in the way that she lived her life, and also in the way that she teaches us to pay close attention to the gifts that our young people bring into the world.
I love that. For me, I would say it has taught me to be intentional about building community, because I believe that St. Josephine Bakhita, she built community around her. Like, none of us are meant to travel this world alone.
Right.
And I think her community is what kept her going. Her community is, you know, what made her fall in love with Christ, ushered that journey in. Her community is what kept joy in her heart. Her community, you know what I mean? And it was probably different parts of the community, different parts of the love that she received, to make her, you know, be able to give out her love in such abundance. And I love how we do that here at St. Josephine Bakhita. I love how you shepherd and you say, you know, this doesn't belong to us, this belongs to God. So yes, if you want to use the space to do this, if we need to reach out into community to do this, whatever we can do to help our community, we do that here. And I think that is like one way that it has changed me, to just look at these places and things that we have in a more intentional way on how we can truly build authentic community. So yeah. Okay, so Father Mitch, tell me, well, you know, my next question is, what do we need for the week?
Well, I think trusting that we are the light of the world. It's and remembering too that it's really grounded in the virtue of humility. So we are the light of the world because Christ has poured God's own life into us. So the Spirit of Christ in us is what makes us the light of the world. So it's not about being proud. It's about letting Christ shine through us, right? So I would invite everyone to trust the precious gifts that God has entrusted to you, that God wants to lift up, and He wants the world to see how beautiful and good each one of you are. So don't be afraid to let your light shine in the world.
Oh my gosh, should we sing This Little Light of Mine?
I'm gonna let it shine.
Listen, thank you so much, Father Mitch. If you've not already liked, subscribed to our podcast, please do so. If you believe that this episode could help somebody you know, please forward the episode along. Bakhita's Blessings Podcast community, we appreciate you. We love you so much. And until next time, bye-bye.
All right.
We'll be right next, but we gotta rewind it a little bit, okay? Okay, Bakhita's Blessings podcast is on the way. That's
All
gonna
right.
make a blooper. The blup, 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 blup.